Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, gentlefolk all around the world. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, brought to you by us, the folks at Nerd Caliber. And speaking of us, the folks at Nerd Caliber, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook, Burley_adopter on the Twitters and a couple other places and a couple of the names and whatever. Joining me tonight is my brother from a better beard, or with a better beard. Introduce yourself, sir.
Evening all, Greg, aka Wonder Llama, here on the Nerd Caliber Weekly Nerd News. We've got a lot of stuff. If you know me, great. If you don't know me, there's not much I can tell you right now because we're not leaving the house. We're not taking any photos. We're not doing anything but talking about nerd news. So I got nothing to plug. I got nothing interesting to say for myself.
Now, we do have something to plug.
Actually,
don't you have something?
Apologies.
Don't you want to unplug what you were doing earlier?
I can indeed plug that. That's a good point. I forgot that I'd started back up again. So if we have any Harry Potter fans in the crowd, stop by tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. If you jump on Facebook and search for Weasley's Whimsical World, I cosplay Hagrid, hence the hut set up behind me here. And I'll be reading another few bits from Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. The bestiary, not the screenplay, which is actually more interesting than the screenplay was. So if you got a half an hour,
low bar,
low bar, yeah. I think what are we covering tomorrow? Probably Phoenix through Yeti, give or take. So if that's your thing, pop by.
All right, and let's welcome some people to the show. YouTube is hopping already. Okay. My contacts are all gummed up from my allergies, but I'm going to try to read these. Jabolix, welcome to the show. Lolbit, welcome to the show. Plush Angel, welcome to the show. Luminous, welcome. Gotcha Fox, welcome to the show. Seekong Circus Abbey, welcome to the show. Jose, welcome to the show. Ozma, welcome to the show. Ivana, welcome to the show. Grayson, welcome to the show. Princess Melina, welcome to the show. And Inslave Elmo, welcome to the show. So what I'm going to plug is we are less than 1 week away from closing out the applications for the July qualifier event of the Summer Cosplay Contest Series that's put on by us and the Covenator, the hardest working man in costume contests in North America. It is a judged costume contest with cash prizes for every winning category. $100 for the top category for the first place, and the first place winner gets to go on to compete with the June qualifier and the upcoming August qualifier for the August finals, with a cash prize of $250 for that winner. So if you're interested, go to nerdcaliber.com, click on the link that says Summer Cosplay Contest Series. It'll take you to the Google form and all the information and the rules and all the stuff that you need to know. Open to 18 and above, North America only, and check it out. If you don't want to participate, you can go to our Facebook page, Nerd Caliber, and there's information there. If you look for the post, you'll see it. We're also doing a sort of a unofficial walk-on. If you want to, post in the comments in that particular post a picture of yourself, ID, if it's taken by a photographer, ID of the photographer. We'll put them into a slideshow video that will be running prior to the actual contest and will be used as like interstitial filler anytime we have to take a break, like when the judges are deliberating, I guess is the right word. So you can do that too. You can participate without actually having to go through the whole rigmarole of sending us photos and filling out forms and so on. And you can watch it July 25th, 6 p.m. It'll be live streamed here on our YouTube, and it will also be live streamed on the Covenator's Twitch stream. All that information is in the article or in the post when you go to nerdcaliber.com and click on the link.
The article. You're showing your journalism roots there.
Next,
we're going to talk about LPs.
Hey, when you write an article, whether it goes up as a post on a website or not, it's still an article. That is, in fact,
Fair
not.
enough.
That's a static page of information. So, And nobody cares about our inside the web terminology here. And we got a ton of topics, so we're going to jump right into them.
Let's do it.
And despite that really, gung ho, let's do it. We're going to start off on this. I'm sure if you are a fan at all of Mythbusters, of Grant Imahara's work after that, of his appearances at cons or anything of the sort, you've seen the news that Grant Imahara passed away at the age of 49 yesterday due to a brain aneurysm. And this is just horrible news. I don't know the man. I've never actually met him, despite being at cons that he was guesting at. But I have a lot of mutual friends with him, some of them very close friends, and they were devastated. I mean, I'm devastated. He's a huge loss to the creative industry, to the maker industry. But, they lost a dear, dear friend. And I feel for them. I feel for Imahara's family. And this is a tragedy. That's the right word for that one.
That's a super young age. And he seemed like he was a pretty fit guy. Just goes to show you that, I mean, a brain aneurysm of all things, there's no way to know. Yeah, same. I've not personally met him. We've worked at cons together where he's been a guest, and haven't crossed paths. But I was scrolling through Facebook a few minutes ago while we were setting up, and 2 or 3 close friends of mine posted photos of panels that they ran with him, little small projects they did together that were just, it's like in shock. So
it's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough. And
I'm gonna give the big double bird to 2020 because it just keeps coming.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put this. Just a second. Want to welcome. We got a Facebook Live chat. Jack, welcome to the show. Any questions, comments, observations about any of the news we're talking about? Feel free to just post them out there. So I didn't put this up because she wasn't really well known for her nerd work, except for 1 or 2 things. But earlier, Kelly Preston died after a long battle with breast cancer. Actually, really not that long, 2 years. So, John Travolta's wife, she's probably best known for nerds in either from Space Camp, which is one of her earliest works, or as Jetstream, the mother of the main character in the wonderful superhero comedy Sky High.
Forgotten all about that. That was a cute movie.
That was a super cute movie. What an amazing cast.
Yep.
She was fantastic in it, in a really small supporting role. So that's to this past week, folks. And 2020 can go pound all the sand. Don't need this, 2020. Do not need this.
Nope.
And I'm not sure we need this, although I know there's a lot of people probably looking forward to it. But hey, the sequel to Ready Player One is coming out this fall. Oddly enough, named Ready Player 2. Shocking development for a title. Shocking. Honestly, I've not read the book. I've only seen the movie. I know Greg has read the book, so I'm going to sort of pass this one off to Greg. What are we thinking about this?
I don't know. I pop this into our group when we suggest topics. There's literally no information about it anywhere online. It's coming out in November, and it's a return to Oasis. That's literally the entirety of the information out there. I don't know. It's one of those books that when you read it the first time, it seems super clever, and you feel smart for catching all these cool 80s and 90s references. And I'm a huge fan of Rush, and there's an entire virtual world dedicated to Rush, so that works for me. But it doesn't hold up super well. The movie wasn't great. If you look back on it, it's definitely kind of a what's a semi-polite way to put it? It's kind of a male gamer fantasy stroke fest in some ways. Um, so I don't know. I'd like to think that Ernest Cline is maybe a little bit more mature as an author than he was in 2011, so the better part of 10 years ago. Um, I don't know where they go with it. I don't know what comes next. I mean, is it going to be a virus in Oasis and they have to go find it? Not even a glimmer of an idea.
Yeah.
So
I did like the idea that in the article that we posted up here, Klein said that one of the reasons it's taking him so long is he wanted to make absolutely sure that this was a sequel to the book and not to the Spielberg movie. And I like that. I like the idea that, you know, he wanted to make sure that it stayed true to some of the elements that were probably excised from the movie that were in the book. It also is a little concerning that maybe that, you know, he may not have a story there if it's taking him that long to make sure it's not a sequel to the movie. But, you know, who knows?
Who knows? I will say, if for anybody, Rod and I were just talking about this, anybody who is a fan of audiobooks, Will Wheaton I was going to say of Star Trek fame, but he's gone on to so much more stuff from then. You could just easily say of The Craft. He narrates the audiobook of Ready Player One, and he's literally the perfect person to narrate that. He's got the right snark and the right kind of anyway, if you're into audiobooks, it's worth checking it out.
So what you're saying is that Wesley doesn't shut up.
Not once.
Yeah, so it's November. Is that what the article says?
November 24. So just in time for Thanksgiving.
Exactly. So I guess he really did think of something because the book's coming out really soon. So There's that. All right, moving on to gaming news. We're just going to sort of throw this out there. The news is Sony dumped a $250 million. Hey, I could put $250 into Epic.
I could drop $250, no problem.
Exactly. $250 million into Epic Games, which is a minority investment. And I thought, really? That, in a game studio? Epic has taken $1.25 billion in venture capital. So yeah, $250 million is a minority stake. That also says that Epic is either going to have to go public within 2 to 3 years or be bought by Sony completely to the tune of probably $5 billion for its investors to be happy. In the venture capital world, you've got a 5-year run to a 5 times return. That's what they're looking for. 3 to 5, but they want 5. So
that'd be you get $1,000.
I wouldn't. Yes, we would get $1,000 or $1,250.
Yeah.
So yay, that's our COVID money right there. But what Epic is of course the Epic Game Store. Of course, the studio behind the insane hits like Fortnite. But it's also the owner of the Unreal Engine, which runs so many games. And this image up on your screen right here is from the Unreal Engine 5 demo that played as part of the whole PlayStation 5 reveal. That this is going to be the kind of technology.
Good.
Oh, it's smooth as glass.
Yeah. And Unreal's been underpinning that style of graphics forever. I mean, I just, this March, April, while I was stuck at home so much, I went back and played the BioShock games over again, and those go back to 2011, 2012. That big old Unreal Engine graphic shows up every time you turn it on.
Yep.
And many, many others. So they're buying a back catalog as well, or buying into a back catalog as well as the technology.
I'm not sure how much of the back catalog of those games
actually,
they get because they let those studios license the Unreal engine. Now, granted, anybody else who licenses any of the other Unreal engines and the Unreal 3 and 4 are two of the primary engine drivers for modern, fairly high graphic quality MMOs as well. So if you look at almost any MMO that's out there, either currently running or in development, a significant chunk of them are running one of the versions of Unreal.
Sorry, you said MMO, and I thought, mixed martial orcs?
That's perfect for an MMO. That's actually the best name I've... Mixed martial orcs. That's an MMO right there.
I'll make some calls.
Unless they don't have the license to the use of the name orcs, in which case they're, probably goblins or something else.
Ogres.
Well, no, there's two different things. In the Tolkien verse or the Tolkien ripoff verse out there, as I know you know.
I don't know anything about Tolkien.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's the news. Sony's got a chunk of Epic now, and my guess is it's leading towards a potential either complete buyout by Sony or Sony putting themselves in the position that if the actual exit money doesn't come for the investors and they decide to sell it off piecemeal, Sony will be there to grab, whatever it can as one of the investors. But we'll see how that plays out. Given the amount of time, how long they started their venture capital run, I'm guessing you'll see this in 2 years. Epic's going to go either public or get scarfed up by somebody. Lolbit FNAF or Five Nights at Freddy's. BioShock was a good game. I never played 2 just because I saw a lot of bad reviews of it. I loved 1. I adored 3. Infinite was probably one of my favorite games ever. And I really liked the DLC that tied 1 and 3 together. Oh yeah. It was mind-blowing.
I just did the 1, 2, 3 and the DLCs. Yeah. Absolutely. 1 is mind-bending because it's just, even on replaying it again years later, it holds up. The storytelling, the graphics, even the combat, which is not, the combat is there, but it's not a combat forward kind of thing per se. 2 was good. It piled onto it a little bit, but it wasn't essential. 3 was so novel and so interesting that you could overlook the fact that the combat stuff was weak. It was not terribly well developed. It was spectacular, and the DLCs were great as well, mostly just for the storytelling. So anyway, we could probably do, between the two of us, an entire show on BioShock. But,
and how awesome it is.
We do tend to run long as it is. So
that's true. So we're moving on to the next topic, and that is, of course, from the Netflix show The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And the news is that it will have an upcoming 4th season, and that is going to be the last. This isn't really surprising news, frankly. This is Netflix's strategy. It milks out 3 to 4 seasons max of successful shows, and then before it thinks it's going to get long in the tooth and starts losing audience, it cuts them off. You could say that's a really smart strategy.
Luke Cage. Excuse me. Sorry, I was choking on something. Luke Cage.
Well, yeah, that's... I'm still... it was Netflix's decision, but nobody's going to tell me that Disney didn't have an awful lot to say about why Netflix made that decision. So this is part 4, they call it, even though there's seasons. They don't call them that. They call them part 1, 2, 3, and 4. But part 4 or season 4 is coming up. I'm looking at the dates for when they're coming up. It will be 8 episodes long. We do have that. And I can't find the date.
It says late 2020, so probably right.
Yep.
Right around Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Or maybe Halloween, which isn't that late, but
Actually,
it would kind of make sense for this thing to drop around Halloween now, wouldn't it?
Perfect sense. Well, and I do like the fact that it's literally, and I am quoting here, leading to a spooky, sexy, supernatural series finale.
Uh, so aspects of the show, it was certainly was spooky, certainly supernatural. Yeah, season 1 and 2 not terribly sexy, as I recall, but it'll be cool. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Now, haven't seen season 3, so maybe that's when all the sexy came in. But anyway, so yeah, late 2020, you get to round out the finale of your Sabrina fix if you have a Sabrina fix. And if you need a fix for something else after that, that image that popped up there is, of course, Robert Pattinson as the upcoming Batman in the Matt Reeves created movie. And the news is that, guess what? There's going to be an expanded universe going to HBO Max, a series created by Matt Reeves, set in this Batman universe, that looks at the world of Gotham, or Gotham City. It sounds an awful lot like Matt Reeves is saying, hey, that Gotham series on Fox wasn't that great, let's do it this way. But that is happening. It's been given a commitment by HBO Max. It is a thing. They're going to do it. It's not just in development. And we don't know when it's going to happen. They're also highlighting that... no, this can't be the... so they're comparing, in this article, they're comparing a couple of other sort of Gotham-esque stories, including Fox's Gotham, but also Epix, which was a Warner division, Warner Horizon. I didn't know that. And the series Pennyworth, which was wonderful. I don't know too many people who have Epix. If you've got it on any of your streaming boxes or cable or whatever, go find it. Fantastic story about Alfred Pennyworth right after he got out of the special services, trying to find a job as a basically private detective, whatever he can do, in 1960s London. A really cool series. But
Sweet.
This one looks cool too. You know, pending whether or not, you know, the Battinson plays out properly or sucks like a lot of the people who've never seen him do anything else except Twilight say. He's a great actor, folks. Like, he's a great actor.
Yep.
So
there's some serious muscle behind this. Terrence Winter's involved. He wrote several of the award-winning episodes of The Sopranos. He was one of the creators of Boardwalk Empire, which I don't know if anybody ever caught that. That was a fantastic show as well. I think that your mileage varies depending on how much Steve Buscemi you can take in one sitting.
the rest of the cast,
also great,
absolutely
also
outstanding.
fantastic.
But yeah, Steve Buscemi as a prohibition gangster, he went a long way.
It was just believable enough.
Yeah.
But in any case, I mean, this is looking pretty interesting. What I find fascinating is they're drawing the parallel to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., obviously a Marvel production, and the fact that no one from the MCU really ever shows up in episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're referred to very, nod, nod, wink, wink, but Thor doesn't just pop in for a cup of tea, which leads me to wonder: is this just going to be an interesting dark detective story, or is it going to be a superhero story?
Well, I'm assuming it's going to be more of a dark detective story, a la what was the DC comic series? Gotham Knights? Comic series that was centered around the Gotham PD, and particularly the special unit that was dealing with super villains. I think it was Gotham Knights. but they've used knights in so many different ways. I'm not sure that that's the
Yep.
case. Somebody in the comments, if you correct me on that, or fill me in on that. But I'm going to call shenanigans on this article. So Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury did an appearance in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
True.
I can't remember the actress's name. Sif from the
True.
first two Thors.
None of the. Well, I was going to say none of the A-list, but Nick
Except
Fury's
Samuel L.
pretty
Jackson.
A-list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was making the comparison, and it was saying it's unclear, not
Right.
just exactly like ... So, again, we'll wait and see, and we'll talk about it after we see the first season next time.
Absolutely. And honestly, I mean, you can't really expect Robert Pattinson to be a regular on this thing. You know, he's a movie star, as they say. All right, moving on to more news about movie stars. That is, of course, the robotically handsome Ryan Gosling. So, of course, from Blade Runner 2049. And the news is that, and I don't know how they got this or decided to do it, but Ryan Gosling is going to be in a Universal, yet another reboot of a horror franchise. He's going to be starring in Wolfman, made by Blumhouse, which of course does all of the horror stuff for Universal now because they're so awesome. But the thing is, it's going to be created by director Lee Wannell, who made the brilliant movie Upgrade. If you haven't seen Upgrade, go watch it. It's one of the best science fiction indie kind of films made in decades. Fascinating story, wonderful story, funny, exciting, lots of action, and really dark and creepy. So yeah, Lee Wannell with Ryan Gosling making a Wolfman movie. I'm on board.
So yeah, sadly, there's not much information about the story treatment, when it's coming out, etc. It's mostly just sort of the usual behind the scenes, who's been attached, etc. About the only thing that sounds interesting, Wannell's writing the treatment of the film based on an original idea and inspired by the 1941 classic. That's, it's funny. That movie, I mean, shit, it's 80 years old at this point. I haven't seen it in forever, but I'm confident that if I watched it today, it would be great, but it would look very dated.
It would. Just a second, I need to jump in. Desiree on Facebook Live, Gotham Central. I think you're right. I think that's the book.
There we go.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I wasn't entirely on board with the concept of what somewhat of the same team did with the Invisible Man. It was an interesting concept, but felt like it was just kind of trying to shoehorn something into the Universal monster universe that was just an interesting concept for a psychological thriller. So sadly, we don't have a whole lot more information about this at this point, but the fact that Ryan Gosling is attached and seems to be working very closely with the showrunner, director, producers, etc., definitely brings a lot of star power and probably the ability to attract a lot of great talent to hopefully make a cool movie.
Yep. Gosling is co-producing with Jason Blum of Blumhouse. According to this thing, Universal has fast-tracked it because of that. No dates, but fast-tracked in COVID. You're still probably looking at 2022. But Lauren Schuker Blum and Rebecca Angelo, who were writers on Orange is the New Black, will be writing the script. So,
very cool.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Very cool. Looks very interesting. Wow, so I'm just reading through this interesting thing. Speaking of Invisible Man, again, Blumhouse, similar crew. $7 million budget to make that movie. I mean, I didn't think you could shoot a music video for $7 million anymore, let alone a big budget, wide release motion picture these days. And it grossed $125 million. So
That's a return.
it's going to
That
be
would make
interesting
venture
to see
capitalists
whether
happy.
they do a they do a similar sort of keep the budget on the low side and go for please go for interesting storytelling over expensive splashy CGI.
I think that's the case. And there's a difference here. Obviously, Elizabeth Moss, while she is a wonderful actress and super well known within the acting community for obviously Handmaid's Tale, not going to get Ryan Gosling money.
Nope.
So this movie is going to be more expensive, just hands down. However, Gosling presumably, and as a producer, Gosling may actually have a deal where he gets paid less up front. So
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I mean, it makes it cheaper to make and release the film, and then if it does well, he does well.
Exactly. Luminous. I take it Universal gave up on their Monster Universe idea, which began with Tom Cruise's Mummy and ended with Tom Cruise's Mummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. In fact, they said that they were going to be pursuing a strategy more like what DC and Warner Brothers has said they were going to be doing with their superhero movies, in that they've given up on the idea of making a coherent MCU-like universe. And they were going to make standalone movies that are interesting and novel, that are rehashes and reboots of the originals of the stuff that would have gone into the dark universe, as Universal called it. But they're going the DC Warner Brothers route now. Let very creative filmmakers make their own creative takes on these new franchises or new stories. I think I missed somebody.
Rodney, we talked.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, so Irma, welcome to the show, and Super Duper, welcome to the show.
We talked about this a while ago, probably not long after The Mummy came out, and it was, it was The Mummy. That Universal basically, slammed the brakes on the idea of trying to do a big interconnected dark universe. But the thing that I do remember from that was that they basically said, yeah, you know what? Let's take these properties and give them to filmmakers.
Yep.
And let them do interesting things with these characters, the stories, the properties, which this, Invisible Man obviously being a good example of that, and hopefully Wolfman as well. A good example of, giving creative people a fair degree of license and not trying to, fence them into the MCU approach of everything has to be interlocked and it's got to be exactly on a time release table, etc. So hopefully this is a pretty good example of that, because it should be funky.
Yep. And we'll see how well DC and Warner Brothers does that with the supposedly maybe is going to happen sometime Flash movie they keep talking about. Speaking of other upcoming movies, guess what? There's going to be another Peter Pan movie, but the only thing that's been put out about it as a big announcement is that Jude Law, here seen as John Watson from the Sherlock Holmes movies, is going to be Captain Hook. And I kind of like that. I think he could pull that off. He is suave enough and plays evil enough. If you've never seen him play a villain, he can do a really good villain. So we've got Ever Anderson is playing Wendy. Alexander Maloney is Peter Pan. It's a live-action reboot. It will get a theatrical release instead of going to Disney Plus, so we don't know. It says an exact date is not currently set. Yeah, we'll have to see how this one plays out, because a lot of the recent adaptations, updates, whatever, of Peter Pan, kind of missed the mark. To say it nicely.
Yeah. And Cool.
Yeah,
I don't
cool.
know what to say about it. Cool. Okay. I mean, I love Jude Law. He's a phenomenal actor. He'll lean into it. Um, Anybody that's a character actor that does a variety of stuff, uh, from what I can tell, seems to relish the opportunity of playing a big scenery chewing over the top villain. It's fun. I mean, as a cosplayer, Superman's fun to put on the super suit, but it's a whole lot more entertaining to be Lex Luthor. I'll tell you that. um, so, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what to expect. Probably some big, over-the-top, CGI heavy monstrosity, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could be good. Just because nothing else has in a long time, it could be good. And it's going to have Disney money behind it, so there's that.
Yep.
All right, moving on to a much lower budget and seemingly much funnier topic. The trailer for the upcoming series Star Trek Lower Decks dropped, and it looks like a hoot. Not surprising, one of the guys behind Rick and Morty is behind it. It's going to be on CBS All Access, which means they could, although it's not indicated in the trailer, drop some F-bombs and get a little, if not Rick and Morty level crude, certainly more crude than you would expect from some other cartoons about Star Trek. But it looks funny. Interesting voice cast from the people that I recognize, which literally is one. Yep. The guy in the purple hair in the shot you're looking at, that is Jack Wade from the Amazon series The Boys. Huey.
And I wouldn't have picked up on this just from the trailer, but I am looking at the IMDb page. Jerry O'Connell is in an episode.
God.
Obviously not one of the main cast, but yeah, exactly. And Fred Tatasciore, who's a very well-known voiceover guy who's been in 100 things. He's involved, so there's some talented people.
Hold on. Lolbit says both R.I.P. the Peter Pan movies. Definitely, we agree. And also, I can tell by the art style, and I assume you mean that you can tell that it is, connected in some fashion to Rick and Morty. I don't know that it shares anybody else other than the creator of this show is a writer on Rick and Morty. So maybe it does. Maybe they do share like art departments or something.
I don't know.
But they're on different platforms. This is made specifically for CBS All Access. Does it say in here who the studio is? The animated series. Star Trek, Rick and Morty. You've got the IMDb up. Does it say who the animation studio is?
That's the full cast and crew. Where is this? Not that I can see. Oh, production company. There we go. 219 Productions, doesn't ring a bell. CBSI Animation, Roddenberry Entertainment, not surprising.
So I'm guessing that CBSI Animation is the actual animation studio.
Okay, this is why. Nickelodeon Animation and Titmouse of Adult Swim fame and beyond are also attached as animation.
There you go. Good eye, Lolbit. That was a pretty good catch.
Yeah.
Luminous, I hate this Lower Decks trailer. Luminous, why?
Really?
Let us know. Sound off in their comments. What about it bothers you? I mean, obviously, it is like a lot of things that CBS All Access has done lately with the Star Trek franchise, really not fitting in the Gene Roddenberry, humans are better in the future than they are now feel of the original Star Trek. That's for sure.
Yep.
But, what else? My first impression, it is a crude satire of Star Trek. Well, yeah. I think that's probably right. Probably pretty crude. Definitely a satire. I mean, the idea is, you've got this fantastic egalitarian society out there exploring the worlds, but a ship needs grunts. And what are the lives of the grunts like? You see that actually a little bit in Wrath of Khan, when the Excelsior is firing on the Enterprise, and it hits the engineering decks, and you see some of the engineering guys who are in like actual emergency vacuum suits and so on, like you would be if you're working around dangerous stuff, get sucked out into space. I mean, it's it's the life of the grunt. Now, I don't know. We haven't seen it other than the trailer, so I don't know how much of that, is literally making fun of the the command deck level people. It shows that there's a fair amount of that. I think they deserve to be poked fun at.
Absolutely. I liked it. I got a chuckle out of it. I can definitely see the point. It has similar DNA to Rick and Morty. The animation style, the aliens, looks like some of the gross out stuff. I tend to doubt it's going to be as darkly cynical and satirical, like black satire as Rick and Morty. It strikes me as more of a dare I say, like a workplace sitcom, the workplace just happening to be like the bilge room of the Enterprise as opposed to a paper company. I don't know, that may be reading too much into it, but I got a chuckle out of it. I was just saying before we got started that, God damn it, I just canceled my CBS subscription and guess I'm going to have to get it again.
Yep. And then, what I would do is, like you were suggesting, maybe wait until they've all aired so you can binge watch them. And hopefully about that same time, the new series Brave New Worlds, which looks at the Enterprise under Pike before Kirk got it, will be out. And that I'm really looking forward to. And Luminous, you got to agree with me on that one. Brave New Worlds looks awesome. Pike and Number One and Spock on the Enterprise prior to Kirk.
So now here I'm going to throw this out there for anybody out in the inner tubes. Any fans of Red Shirts by John Scalzi? Came out about 4 or 5 years ago. Oddly enough, also narrated, the audiobook also narrated by Will Wheaton. If you've ever read it, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw this trailer. The idea behind that book being how disposable, like the running joke through Star Trek of the Red Shirts just being cannon fodder, bantha fodder, dare I say. And
see, now we're mixing universes here, pal.
Now I'm crossing the streams. Anyway, if you've read it and you think there's any bearing in it, drop a line in the comments. Always curious to see if anybody else has picked up on the same sort of stuff.
But since Greg brought up the Star Wars universe, nice segue, Greg. Deliberate, I'm sure. That on your screen right there is, in fact, The Bad Batch. Not to be confused with the title The Bad Bitch, which is apparently what everybody thinks that logo says when they see it the first time. Greg's raising his hand even though he's not on the screen. So the story is there is a new animated series coming from the creator of the Clone Wars, David Filoni, and so much of the future and ongoing world of Star Wars, particularly on Disney Plus, but pretty much everywhere else. Filoni is the guy at this point. And it's the story of this group right here of clones. And the reason they don't look exactly alike is that they were specifically taken out of the cloning process to be given more individuality, and specifically each one of them has I don't want to call it a superpower, but they are genetically enhanced in one particular way or the other. Super strong, super tough, super agile, supervision, sniping, and so on. And they were made to be a particular troubleshooting team among all of the clone troopers called the Bad Batch because, to the other clone troopers, they are a bad batch of clones. And this series is coming to Disney Plus, and in 2021. Oh, by the way, getting back to it, we forgot to mention this. Star Trek Lower Decks is dropping August 6th of this year, so like less than a month. So Luminous, you can go check it out and find out that you in fact really do hate it. But Star Wars: The Bad Batch coming to Disney Plus in 2021, created by and developed by Dave Filoni, the Mandalorian executive producer, the Clone Wars, Rebels, all of that work. And pretty much all of Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, Clone Wars, everybody involved at a high level in making this is in this, including Jennifer Corbett, Star Wars Resistance, NCIS. Okay. Well, I mean, they can't all be working for just Star Wars stuff, but I'm looking forward to this. I as I mentioned to Greg earlier on, I didn't watch a ton of the Clone Wars. There was one period where I watched maybe like a 12 or 14 episode arc. And I think part of it, the Bad Batch was in it. And what I saw of it, what I really liked, I thought it was a really good show, and I'm not really sure why I didn't. I know why. Because it moved from focusing on clone troopers, and I'm pretty sure Rex was in the arc that I saw, to going back to telling more of the story of Asuka and Anakin and so on. And I was so done with Anakin at that point that I was like, I don't want to see the rest of this.
Fair.
Probably to my detriment, from what everybody tells me.
I could see that. That's a fair point. I mean, Anakin, his DNA is in every single bit of Star Wars, for better or for worse, obviously. Clone Wars, to me, was more interesting when it wasn't specifically about him and his whole arc. The stuff I found interesting was a little later, might have been after you had stopped watching, even though it did involve him. Was going to the original Jedi Temple and really leaning into like the early mythology and the world building and the backstory. I'm a fan of the Silmarillion, which is the backstory, the pre-mythology of Lord of the Rings, for very very similar reasons. So I enjoyed that. There was a lot of great stuff. I mean, they knew how to put on an action sequence for sure. There was some great stuff. I think I probably made it through about season 4, and then I stopped being unemployed. I fell off at that point.
Darn it! I got a job. Do I want to answer a question here? Lolbit, are we allowed to swear in chat? Yeah, we're not going to. If you want to express how effing fantastic you think something is, sure. If you swear at somebody or just say something for the purpose of being crude, if it's simply crude, I'll just hide the chat so nobody sees it. If you swear at somebody, I'll block you from the channel forever. So there you go. Feel free to use swear words to express your enthusiasm about something. We have no problem with that. It's not going to demonetize our video itself or anything like that, so go to town. Don't be mean, though. That's my one rule.
Be a dick. Yes.
As Will Wheaton, having brought him up many times now, is very famous for saying, don't be a dick. Yeah, that's the story here as far as we know about The Bad Batch. We don't know exactly when in 2021 it's going to drop or how far along they are in development, but this is one of those, again, Disney Plus is making the announcement, so it's a series. It's going to happen.
The thing we've touched on this at a couple of points when we get news and announcements about new animated shows. I mean, obviously, COVID has drastically impacted all entertainment production, TV, film, etc. I shouldn't say all. Basically, any live action stuff where you've got a large set with crew and actors and craft services, etc. That, personally as a huge fan of animation, it's interesting that animation seems to be able to push forward because the script writers can do their thing by Zoom. They can ship it to the animators who it's all done on computers, or depending on the animation, but predominantly on computers. They can do their stuff. I've read so many things about voice actors. If they didn't already have a sound booth in their house, they do now, because you can get a script, you can get your wireframe stuff in, and you can do your voiceover work from wherever, and then it goes off to your post-production house. So depending on the trajectory of COVID, whether things open, whether they don't, I think we're going to see a lot more animation get a green light over the next year or two, because it can be done safely, in some cases probably more affordably than TV production, potentially movie production, depending on what it is. It obviously, like anything, there's going to be some shit in there with some good stuff, but I like animation, so I'll take my chances with the crappy stuff.
Now,
hoping that we get some good stuff.
That's an accurate observation, as far as I know, with animation studios here in the United States, probably in Europe as well. It's not the same thing in Japan. Japan actually was seriously compromised, their production schedules, by
That's true.
Japan's COVID reaction, and they didn't have a lockdown in Japan. They just had a lot of very strong recommendations about not gathering people together. Apparently, it's still a thing that in Japan, while they do farm out some work, I mean, they have to, most of the actual production of any of their animations are done in a studio in which you've got, dozens upon dozens of people in multiple floors in one building.
Yeah.
So
good point.
So because of that, a lot of stuff was delayed. The number of new shows premiering in the summer season this year compared to last year literally was cut in half. But if you want to read it, if you're a fan of anime, there's an article on Nerd Caliber I posted up yesterday or the day before that looks at two of the anime that did make it, that have two of the absolute most banger first episodes I've seen in a long time. Like, instantly grab you by the throat and pull you right in, so you have to watch an episode 2. So go check those out if you're an anime fan. But we're going to move on to our penultimate topic, and that is, it's animation, I guess. It's actually gaming and gaming companies and other companies. And, so Ubisoft had its Ubisoft Forward event, which was its way of dealing with the fact that there's no E3. It announced a bunch of things, showed gameplay from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it ended with the announcement of Far Cry 6, which is why this is up there. Shout out to The Mandalorian's best bad guy, Giancarlo Esposito, as bad guy in Far Cry 6. But the news is actually not really about that. That's basically just a way to put an image up there. The news is, and we talked about this last week and the week before that, that Ubisoft has been beset, like so many companies in all kinds of creative industries, but particularly the gaming industry, with sexual harassment and straight up sexual abuse allegations. A lot of people. Last week, 3 people at various levels, quote unquote, resigned. Were encouraged to get the hell out without being actually fired. This past week, that reached the executive suite, what they call the C-suite. the chief creative officer resigned because of Ubisoft's internal investigations into these allegations. I'm 100% skeptical about any internal investigation having any real long-term results. But to have somebody at the C-suite level get a boot in his ass this quickly, I mean, within 2 to 3 weeks of the allegations hitting and then an internal investigation starting, is pretty impressive.
It's borderline unheard of.
Yeah. I don't want to heap praise on Ubisoft. God knows that they've still got problems on top of problems. Ryan. Okay. Ryu. Gonna call you Ryu. Hello, and welcome to the show.
Evening.
Yeah, Ubisoft is maybe actually doing something real about this. It certainly seems to indicate it. Maybe the chief creative guy was the fall guy, and that's it. They found their one top executive, and he got the axe, and now this looks good enough on paper to satisfy their investors, and or maybe
human
they're
resources
really
director of human resources also, and the managing director of the Canadian branch.
Yep.
So at least one C-level person. Yeah, I mean, like so many things, the proof is in the eventual pudding or lack thereof. Some of this almost seems like corporate boilerplate, unacceptable toxic behaviors, direct contrast to our values.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything other than corporate boilerplate in the announcement.
Of
Even
course.
the announcement, not meeting our corporate values. They're not going to say, this guy was accused of doing, A, B, and C by these 3, 4, or 5 people, and therefore screw him. They're going to say corporate speak.
Right. Well, the point that I was driving at, the next line down in his statement was, we're committed to implementing profound changes across the company to improve and strengthen our workplace culture. Well, as someone who's worked in offices, big and small, for my entire career, profound changes to a company culture are incredibly difficult, even if it's not something as profound and severe and serious as sexual harassment, stuff on that level. So, let's put Rodney, let's make a note to, have this conversation again in a year and see if they've actually implemented this and become a solid, inclusive, not dangerous place to work. Or did they just, shuffle a few people out for the PR and it's, stays the same crap hole?
Yeah, company culture develops because of the people who are promulgating that culture. You and I both, we've worked in, plenty of male-centric, tech-related fields. You don't get that kind of profound change without profoundly changing the personnel in the company. Ubisoft would have to clean house in a big way to affect what they really are saying as a profound change. Maybe they will. If that's the case, I'm all for it. Eve, go to town. But it also could be just more, PR marketing, blah, blah, blah. But as it turns out, just hours before we went on air, Lewis, who's not on with us tonight, found this, and I don't have artwork because I didn't dig anything up in time. But so Wizards of the Coast, the the holders of all of the D&D intellectual property, put out an apology to a former contracting company for what they've been accused of mistreatment of its employees of color and contractors. And this article points out the one really interesting point that D&D puts out this, Wizards of the Coast D&D puts out this apology specifically mentioning this contractor, Orion Black, which indicates that they are, in effect, admitting that there was a problem with how they treated at least this one company, this one contractor company. And a lot of people in the community said, yeah, that's great. Thanks for the apology. Let's see your plan for making this better. So it's not just video games. It's all kinds of games. And as we talked about last week, it's comics. The comics world has blown up in the last few weeks, with people finally, thankfully, daring to come forward and thinking that either they're willing to put their careers on the risk or realizing that they may not actually be risking their careers as much as they thought, to name names and call out people who are being abusive. Mostly sexual harassment and so on in that instance, not mistreatment of people of color, as the case with Wizards of the Coast seems to be. So, yeah. We talked about this last week. The floodgates are open.
Yep. And it's long overdue in so many of these industries. There's a lot of gross stories. I thankfully haven't thought about Gamergate in a while. Speaking of gross stories that would be better dead and buried. But the story about Ubisoft, uses that as a bit of context. And I was like, oh my God, wasn't that just like 5 minutes ago? It was 6 years ago. It was 2014 when that was, 2014, 2015 when that was at its peak of, peak awfulness. And it just, I don't want to say it died down. It just kind of, fell off the radar, as it were, off the mainstream.
That's what it fell off the radar. It became one of those things.
Yep.
Oh, look, it's those jerks again.
Yep. So, yeah, I got nothing else useful to contribute to that one.
So keep it up, folks. Overdue. Keep it up, folks. Speak truth to power. Light flames under feet. Do it.
Damn straight.
Our last topic. That image right there is, of course, Ruby Rose as Batwoman in the CW series of the same name, and the new Batwoman, which will not, in fact, be Kate Kane, but will be portrayed by, I believe the name is Javicia, or Javicia. I'm going to go with Javicia, like Alicia. So Javicia Leslie, from Godfriended Me, which I've never watched, so I have no idea anything about her, except she is, of course, black. She is bi, according to her own statements, and yay for CW to not only hold true to its own commitment that it would be casting somebody in the LGBTQ plus community to replace Ruby Rose in playing a character, even though it's no longer Kate Kane, who in the DC Comics is in fact a lesbian character. They are sticking with a character who is lesbian, and they cast a woman who is bi, and just happened to decide to cast a black woman too. So, holy crap. Yay. And yay.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just get a chuckle out of when I saw this the first time. I'm just reading through the Deadline article again. When I saw this several weeks ago, when we were talking about Ruby Rose exiting the show, the casting call or the description that they made for Ryan Wilder, who's going to be the not Kate Kane replacement. She's likable, messy, a little goofy, untamed. She spent years as a drug runner, dodging the PD and masking her pain with bad habits. just the kind of girl who'd steal milk from an alley cat and kill you with her bare hands.
Steal milk
I
for an alley cat.
For an alley cat. I'm sorry.
I'm like, what?
From
Wait,
an alley
what?
cat's a very different. From a very different thing. Yeah.
That would be an interesting character, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly. I'd actually enjoy seeing that. But anyway, whenever I read stuff like that, I wish I could write prose as florid and purple and over the top as that.
Or bad. I think the word you're looking for is bad.
Let's go with that too. Sure.
So it sounds like what they're trying to do is create a LGBTQ kind of version of Jessica Jones from the Netflix series Jessica Jones. Dealing with a bad crowd, has her own bad habits. But a lovable character who like, yeah, okay. There are lots of ways to describe that, and that pile of meaningless fluff that whoever this marketing person wrote about the character is just not the right ways. That doesn't make me want to watch a show with Ryan Wilder as a character. Give me a reason other than the fact that you've cast a black woman and a bi woman, so good on you. Give me a better description of the character and a better reason why I should pick this up now that Ruby Rose is not on.
Yep. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, no question. Excuse me. It's funny you mentioned Jessica Jones, and I'm like, oh my god, the word goofy never ever once appeared anywhere on any of the scripts or treatments for Jessica Jones. She was a dark, broken human being. Or mutant or super or whatever you want to call her. I don't think this will be quite that dark or severe. And you know what? I'm actually okay with that. I feel like between the super brooding Batmans that we've had, how thoroughly broken Jessica Jones was. It was a fantastic character. I love the show to death, but it was grimdark at points.
Yep.
Something a little bit goofy and a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say Batman 66 playful, but maybe a little hint of that.
Yeah. So maybe they're going more for, since it is a Berlanti CW production, they're going a little bit more for the Flash feel. Certainly the Flash has its super goofy moments, but it's also, it is CW's, One Tree Hill melodrama with people who run fast. It has its moments of absolute wonderful, TV production and fantastic acting, but that sounds, more like it. It's the only thing I can think of in their entire canon that can be described as goofy, other than Legends of Tomorrow, which is just, it's the American version of Torchwood. It's just nuts. So, yeah, all right, I'll buy that. Let's go with a little bit lighter, but still holding the melodrama tone. But yeah, so we don't know when. I don't know. It doesn't say in here whether or not they will actually be able to premiere this like they normally would in late fall.
Might be pushing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting as you said that. It just crossed my mind that, from what I've read in, about some productions that are trying to push forward, they have to do incredibly small groups, one or two actors, a small filming crew, to be able to safely work and to, be able to work around COVID requirements. I wonder if any film or I should say TV studios are looking at the idea of doing like a 2 or a 3 episode fall premiere, and then tune back in 2 months where we can keep filming and producing the rest of these.
I haven't heard anything about that. It'll be interesting to see where Berlanti produces a lot of its stuff in Vancouver. Canada seems to be on the track for actually allowing more of that. Here in the States, California's Governor Newsom just locked things down again. Most of the plans for anything being produced in California and probably Georgia, the East Coast big version of TV production, it doesn't look like that's going to happen for a long time.
Nope, very true.
So yay for Vancouver. Please, Vancouver, stay safe and give us nerd shows. All right, that's it, folks. We are running a tad long, and so we're going to wrap this all up, plus Greg's coughing, so I'm going to make sure that's not the COVID. So.
No, I just, my attic or my loft up here where I'm in is dusty.
That'll do it. All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us in the chat. Excellent questions and comments, folks. We had some more stuff here. Art Demon, hello and goodbye. Sorry about that. Negrale, welcome to the show and good night. Maria, welcome to the show and good night. Lorena, it looks like just a bunch of backslashes. So I don't know what that means, so I'm going to hide it. There we go. All right, and good night, folks. Thank you very much. Tune in next week. And once again, if you're interested in watching the July qualifier for the Summer Cosplay Contest, July 25th, 6 p.m., right here on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, and on the Covenators Twitch channel, if you're watching it there. And if you want to apply, you want to get your name in, Saturday night at midnight, the 18th, applications close. So get those applications in, and otherwise, from Greg, say goodnight.
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Sorry, caught me off guard there. I thought we were still talking about cosplay stuff. Good night, everybody. Wonder Llama, have a great weekend.
And from me, Rodney Brown, first-person shooter. Have a great weekend. Good week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.